Every October, I do one simple thing before sleep. And every time I do, new streams of money appear in ways I couldn't have planned. It's not superstition, it's law. The law of assumption magnified by the stillness of night. When the world sleeps, imagination rules. So if you listen with me every night, this October, you'll begin to prove that law for yourself, not by faith alone, but by demonstration. In this experience, I'm going to guide you into the wealth frequency, the living rhythm of abundance that responds to your state, not your effort. You learn how to speak to money in the only language it understands, feeling. For wealth is not earned by time, but by tone. The tone of certainty, of gratitude, of being supplied. Over these nights, you'll discover how to dissolve debt, awaken flow, and draw to yourself opportunities without strain. Because what you seek is not outside you. It's the echo of your own belief returning to you as form. I know what it feels like to struggle, to work harder each day, and still feel the weight of not enough. I've been there, counting bills instead of blessings, chasing results instead of resting in creation. But here's what I learned. Money doesn't come to the anxious. It comes to the assured. It moves toward the one who no longer chases it, because that one has entered the vibration of having. So tonight, I want you to let go of effort. I want you to simply listen, because listening opens the door between your imagination and your reality. Listening aligns the outer and inner worlds. And when that alignment happens, everything you've been seeking begins to seek you. In this meditation, I'll guide you through the 3 stages of wealth embodiment: the command, the feeling, and the rest. You'll hear the exact phrase I used years ago to end struggle, and you'll learn how to make its vibration your own. As you listen each night this October, your consciousness will begin to harmonize with abundance itself. You'll notice subtle changes. First, peace replacing fear, confidence replacing doubt, until eventually the outer reflects what the inner has accepted. Stay with me to the end, for before this session closes, I will speak a single sentence, one that, if you feel it as your own, will begin to shift your entire relationship with wealth. What I'm about to tell you may sound simple, but if you truly hear it, I mean hear it with your inner ear, everything about your financial world will begin to change. Most people believe that money is physical, that it's paper and metal or a number written in some distant ledger. But money is not matter. It is motion. It is vibration. And it always responds to the sound you're making within yourself. You see, every word you speak, every emotion you feel, every thought you nurture has a tone. And that tone sends out a call. The universe does not hear what you say about money. It hears what you mean. It listens to the steady hum beneath your words. You can say, I am wealthy, and yet vibra. Tea with fear. You can say, I am abundant, and still hum the song of lack. And so the outer world mirrors not your statements, but your secret sound, the invisible music you play in consciousness every day. When I first discovered this, it was both humbling and liberating. I realized that I had been speaking wealth with my lips, but whispering poverty in my heart. I would affirm abundance in the morning, then doubt by noon. And because my tone wavered, so did my results. But the moment I learned to hold one single sound, the sound of having money began to find me from places I could never have planned. Letters arrived, opportunities unfolded, debts dissolved. And I saw that money was not responding to my effort, but to my energy. Here's something most people completely miss. Wealth is not pursued. It is permitted. You don't chase it. You tune to it. Just as a musician does not demand that the orchestra adjust to his single instrument, he tunes his instrument to match the orchestra. When you tune your imagination to the frequency of wealth, the entire symphony of life begins to harmonize with you. Every conversation, every meeting, every so-called coincidence begins to play in your favor. And tuning doesn't require work. It requires awareness. Take a moment now and listen inwardly. What's the sound of your inner dialogue around money? Is it hurried, anxious, restless? That's the sound of wanting. Or is it slow, peaceful, contented, the feeling of already being supplied? That's the sound of having, and life always amplifies whichever sound you hold. Let me tell you, there was a man who once came to one of my lectures. He was frustrated, working day and night, and yet every payday his money seemed to vanish faster than he earned it. He told me, "Neville, I'm doing everything right. I'm visualizing, affirming, but nothing changes." And I asked him, "When you affirm, what do you feel?" He hesitated and said, "I feel desperate. I feel like I'm lying to myself." I smiled and told him, "That's exactly what you're creating, more reasons to feel desperate." I then gave him a simple practice. Each night before sleep, instead of affirming words he didn't believe, I asked him to imagine the sound of his bank account balance increasing. Not the number, but the sound. The quiet sigh of relief, the gentle laughter of security, the rhythm of calm breathing that follows the knowing. It is done. 2 weeks later, he wrote to me. A long-lost client had suddenly paid a forgotten invoice. His boss offered a promotion. Nothing he forced, nothing he planned. It came by tone, not toil. His vibration changed and the world answered its new sound. So tonight before sleep, I want you to try something simple. Don't visualize stacks of money. Don't plead or plan. Just close your eyes and ask yourself, if I already had everything I needed, what would the silence within me sound like? Would it hum with peace? Would it breathe in gratitude? Would it laugh softly at the ease of it all? That's your wealth frequency. And once you feel it, you'll begin to recognize it everywhere. You'll hear it in the stillness between breaths. You'll feel it in the pause before you speak. That's the vibration of possession. Not wanting, but having. The moment you align with it, money begins to move toward you. Not as a favor, but as a natural law. Because money, my friend, is not responding to your work. It's responding to your worth. And worth is simply the recognition of I already am. And when you wake in the morning, don't ask where will it come from. Just listen inwardly again for that same quiet sound of completion. Let that be your music for the day. The silent melody of being supplied. The world will catch that rhythm soon enough. And when it does, you'll notice that everything you once chased begins to chase you. This is the first secret of the October practice. Not to speak louder, not to try harder, but to find and hold the sound of having. For once you've heard it, truly he art it, you'll never confuse effort with creation again. And once you understand that everything answers vibration, the next step is learning how to tune your inner tone to wealth itself, that natural harmony we call faith. There comes a moment in every man's journey when he realizes that no amount of striving, planning, or pushing can bring him what he seeks. For wealth does not come through force, but through faith, and not the kind of faith that pleads or hopes, but the quiet knowing that it is already done. Faith, you see, is not a gesture of belief in something far away. It is the vibration of possession felt here and now. It is the invisible sound of completion that hums beneath the stillness of those who have remembered who they are. When I speak of faith, I do not mean blind trust in fate, nor the waiting for divine intervention. I speak of the deliberate adjustment of your inner frequency until what you once called unseen begins to appear with the inevitability of sunrise. Her ease, something few ever grasp. Every assumption is a frequency. Whatever you hold to be true in imagination is transmitted through the substance of consciousness itself. And the world around you must echo that vibration until it becomes fact. When I began to understand this, I stopped working to change my outer circumstances and started changing my inner conviction. I realized that the outer was nothing but a delayed reflection of the inner tone I was continually playing. So long as I felt doubt, life presented reasons to doubt. When I felt trust, Doors opened without my knocking. It was not luck, it was law. And law never fails the one who knows how to keep his vibration steady. Faith is that steadiness, that invisible rhythm that never wavers, even when appearances scream otherwise. It's like the tuning of a radio. If the frequency drifts even slightly, the music fades into static. The signal never disappeared. You simply moved out of alignment with it. Likewise, wealth is always broadcasting. Abundance is always calling, but you can only receive what your inner dial is set to. You may beg, you may worry, you may wait for miracles, but until your faith is tuned to the sound of already done, you will hear nothing but noise. I once met a woman who perfectly illustrated this truth. She had written me a letter saying she was trying so hard to believe, but every time she affirmed her wealth, something unexpected would break: the car, the boiler, an appliance. And she took these as signs that her affirmations weren't working. I invited her to change one thing only: her definition of faith. Don't try to believe, I said. Simply feel what you would feel if you already had. That night she lay in bed imagining her bills paid, her home warm and comfortable, her hands resting easily on her heart. She told me she didn't picture money or numbers. She simply felt the peace of sufficiency. Within 3 days, her employer announced an unplanned bonus for all staff backdated months early. She had not forced it. She had tuned to it. When you understand faith in this way, worry loses its grip. Worry is merely faith inverted, belief in lack, confidence in defeat. And gratitude, my friend, is faith expressed. Every time you give thanks for what you have not yet seen, you are proving that you already feel it as real. And the universe has no choice but to mirror that conviction. Gratitude raises your signal the way sunlight lifts a flower's face. It amplifies your field until everything around you begins to rearrange itself to reflect your new certainty. Now you might say, but Neville, what if I lose faith? Then stop. Be still. Faith is not something you hold tightly. It is something you rest into. When the world tempts you to look at numbers, at facts, at so-called reality, return inward and listen for that same tone of having that we spoke of before. The sound of peace is the frequency of faith. Do not strain for it. Allow it. Faith isn't a muscle. It's a melody. And the moment you hum it inwardly, all resistance dissolves. I remember once, years ago, when I had not a cent left, my pockets were empty and the rent was due. I sat quietly in my small room, closed my eyes, and said not a word. I simply began to feel the security of being provided for. I imagined walking to the letterbox and finding an envelope there, thick with notes. I didn't demand it, didn't even visualize it clearly. I just felt the weight of it in my hand, the sense of relief, the warmth of gratitude spreading through me. Then I slept. The next morning, a man I had not heard from in months came to return a debt I had long forgotten. In that moment, I knew that my faith had been the magnet and his action was merely the motion of the law, fulfilling its command. So tonight, as you listen, you don't need to try to have faith. You need only to rest in the feeling that everything you require is already moving toward you. When the mind begins to argue, smile and remember that the argument itself is only static and you, the consciousness behind it, are the signal. Hold the tone of peace long enough and the music of wealth will play through you effortlessly. For faith is not a question of time or proof. It is the inner certainty that the unseen is already seen, that what you ask for is already given, that what you long for is already yours. And when you've touched that stillness, when your heart feels that calm certainty, you'll notice something miraculous. Money stops being something you chase and becomes something that recognizes you. It comes to the one who no longer doubts his belonging in abundance, just as light rushes to fill the room when darkness forgets itself. So remember this, Faith is not waiting for signs. It is becoming the sign. And when you dwell in that vibration long enough, you'll see that wealth was never a future event waiting to happen. It was a present state waiting to be felt. And that, my friend, is the true frequency of faith. When faith becomes natural, wealth begins to appear naturally. But to make it permanent, to let it flow without interruption, you must discover where that wealth truly lives. And for that, we turn to the inner bank, the limitless treasury within you that never runs dry. There is a treasury within you that no thief can touch, no law can tax, and no circumstance can ever deplete. It is the true bank of being, the silent vault of imagination, and every deposit you have ever made into it lives there still, waiting to be withdrawn into form. You may think your wealth lies in a paycheck, a client, a business, or the kindness of others. But that is illusion. All those things are merely channels, tributaries of the one great river that flows from your consciousness. The source is not in the outer world. The source is you. Until this truth becomes living reality, you will move through life like a beggar beside a hidden fortune, pleading for coins while seated on a chest of gold. You see, imagination is that chest. It is the spiritual bank from which all physical supply is drawn. Every time you assume a feeling, whether of plenty or of poverty, you deposit it there. Every emotion, every inner conversation, every picture held with conviction becomes a balance in your subconscious account. And the world is the faithful cashier that pays out whatever you have stored up. If your vault is filled with thoughts of fear, it must pay you in shortage. If it overflows with gratitude, it must deliver abundance. The law cannot err, for the subconscious knows only to obey. I discovered this law during a time when I believed myself to be at the edge of ruin. My outer life was crumbling, obligations pressing, work uncertain, the future dim. One evening, as I sat in the quiet, something within me whispered, "You have been trying to live from withdrawals without ever making deposits." I understood then that I had been demanding from life what I had never credited to my own imagination. I wanted proof of abundance, while continually imagining lack. That night, I began a new practice. I sat still and pretended that I had a great account somewhere, not in any bank of the world, but in the vault of my inner being. I imagined myself writing checks from it, giving freely, blessing others, feeling the joy of limitless supply. I heard myself saying, "Thank you, Father, for the immeasurable wealth of your love made visible now." The next morning, my state felt lighter, freer. Within days, new opportunities came. Old debts were resolved in unexpected ways. Yet the greatest miracle was not the money itself, but the peace that replaced the hunger. I knew then that the supply was within me, and that as long as I kept my consciousness rich, my world would never be poor. Most people think of wealth as something to build, savings to gather, investments to grow, strategies to plan. But in truth, wealth is something to remember. You cannot build abundance. You can only remember that you are it, the outer actio. NS that follow are but reflections of that inner remembrance. Have you ever watched a child play make-believe? They close their eyes and instantly become kings and queens. They dine in castles. They hold treasures in their tiny hands. And for them, the imagined is more real than the seen. And because they do not doubt, they are supplied in that moment. They live in the magic of assumption, the same power that you once knew but forgot, as the world convinced you to be sensible, realistic, fearful. Your task now is to reclaim that childlike imagination, not to escape reality, but to remember that imagination is reality, and the physical world is its delayed echo. You must fill your inner vault daily with feelings of wealth, not visible bank right now. Is it full of confidence, generosity, and peace? Or is it overdrawn with fear and worry? The answer is simple to find. Look around you, for your world is your balance sheet made visible. If you wish to change that outer statement, You must first change the books within. Begin tonight. Sit quietly before sleep and imagine opening a great golden ledger in your mind. Across its pages, you see only credits, blessings received, opportunities multiplying, gifts freely given and returned tenfold. Feel the relief, the expansion, the joy of that invisible wealth. Whisper to yourself, all accounts are in divine order. My supply is infinite and immediate. Don't strain to believe it. Simply rest in its feeling. For imagination, when accepted as true, is the only currency heaven recognizes. One of my students once told me she made a ritual of this every evening. Though she had little to her name, she would close her eyes and thank her inner account for its endless generosity. Within weeks, she received unexpected back pay from an old job. Soon after, a friend offered her a profitable partnership. None of it was coincidence. It was withdrawal from the treasury she had finally remembered was hers. So I ask you as you listen tonight, where have you placed your faith, in the world's uncertain economy or in the eternal storehouse within? The outer may falter, markets may fall, but your inner bank never declines in value. Its wealth is measured not in dollars, but in the depth of your feeling. Each thought of abundance is a deposit. Each word of gratitude adds interest. Each moment of rest in the knowing I am supplied multiplies your holdings beyond measure. To draw from this treasury, you must know the currency it accepts, and that currency is feeling. The more real your inner experience of wealth becomes, the faster the outer world must yield its reflection. For it is written, to him that hath, more shall be given. The one who feels rich, who acts from fullness, who gives without fear, proves that he already possesses, and the law rushes to confirm it. The one who feels lack, who hoards, who doubts, proves that he believes himself empty and so remains so. For the universe cannot deposit into an account marked closed. My friend, stop counting coins. Count vibrations. Stop measuring supply by what you see and start measuring by what you feel. When your inner atmosphere hums with sufficiency, money must come. And it will come by ways so natural you'll call them coincidence. But there are no coincidences. In a universe of perfect law, there are only reflections of inner wealth appearing in time. So tonight, as you drift to sleep, forget the outer world for a while. Go to your inner bank. Feel the weight of its security, the infinite peace of knowing that you can never exhaust its supply. Make your deposit through gratitude. Make your withdrawal through faith. And know that every act of giving, every smile, every word of thanksgiving adds compound interest to your invisible fortune. For you are not earning wealth. You are remembering it. You are not waiting for abundance. You are awakening to it. And as October unfolds and you listen each night, you'll find that your outer life begins to mirror the riches you've stored within. For the inner and the outer are one continuous current, the current of God flowing through you as the law of wealth itself. To draw from that treasury, you must know the currency it accepts, and that currency is feeling. And now, as we move deeper, I'll show you why feeling is not a reaction, but the creative force itself, the true currency of heaven. Here is a truth that may surprise you. The universe is a marketplace of feelings, and every transaction you make is measured not in money, but in emotion. The only currency that truly exists is the vibration of what you feel. And what you feel consistently becomes the rate of exchange by which the outer world pays you. Most people try to change their income without ever changing their inner income, the emotional balance they carry from moment to moment. But what you call luck or misfortune, gain or loss is nothing more than the outer reflection of your inner spending. You are always trading vibrations, always buying experiences with the coin of your own emotion. If your pockets are filled with worry, the world must give you more to worry about. If your pockets overflow with gratitude, the world rushes to give you more reasons to be grateful. The law has no favorites. It simply balances the books. Feeling is the medium of creation, the invisible gold that underwrites every form that appears in your world. And the value of that gold is determined by faith. When your faith is weak, your currency is devalued, and you must labor to buy what could have come freely. When your faith is strong, the same effort multiplies tenfold. Just as a nation's economy is backed by its reserves, your personal economy is backed by the emotional reserves of your company. Anxiousness. Gratitude is gold. Fear is sand. Joy is interest compounded. Doubt is debt accrued. Whatever you feel consistently, you are spending into form. When I speak of the emotional exchange rate, I mean the invisible measure by which life mirrors your habitual vibration. Have you noticed how some people seem to magnetize prosperity with no visible effort, while others toil endlessly only to remain where they started? The difference lies not in skill, luck, or intelligence, but in emotional wealth. The prosperous live in a continuous hum of ease, certainty, and expectation. Their inner state tells life, I can afford to feel good now. And so life mirrors that feeling in ever-expanding form. The struggling live in a hum of tension, of waiting, of postponement, and life obeying perfectly keeps them waiting. I learned this in a way that was both painful and liberating. Years ago, before I grasped the depth of this law, I lived with a secret contradiction. I affirmed abundance daily, Bhuti lived emotionally bankrupt. I would speak of wealth, but my heart was mortgaged to fear. My every thought of money carried a trace of guilt, a residue of unworthiness. And so, despite my affirmations, the universe answered me in kind, giving me more reasons to feel unworthy, more opportunities to struggle, more proof that I needed to work harder to earn what was already mine. When I finally saw that the feeling itself was the seed, I began to change not my words but my inner atmosphere. Each morning, instead of worrying about what I might lose, I began to feel what it would be like to have so much that I could give without concern. I practiced the sensation of ease, of security, of quiet sufficiency. I made it my ritual to feel that I could afford to relax, and little by little everything changed. Opportunities that had seemed locked began to open of their own accord. Conversations that might have been strained turned friendly. Clients paid early. Gifts appeared without request. As though life, seeing that I had raised my emotional exchange rate, decided to pay me in kind. Think of it like this. If your feelings are your currency, then your attention is your mint. Whatever you focus on, you print more of. Focus on fear, and you flood your world with counterfeit bills, images of lack that have no backing in truth. Focus on peace, and you flood your world with gold, each coin stamped with the divine seal of I am. The choice is always yours, but the rate never lies. The moment you feel anxious about money, remember anxiety is a low-value coin. It will buy you only more anxiety. But one moment of genuine gratitude will buy you 1,000 reflections of its kind. For gratitude is legal tender in every realm. A student once came to me with tears in her eyes. Neville, she said, I can't stop worrying. I've done the affirmations, the visualizations, but I can't shake the fear. I told her gently, you're trying to change the number in your account without changing the N. Umber in your heart. The only wealth that counts is the feeling of it. I asked her to try something different. Each night before bed, instead of begging for relief, she was to imagine one simple scene. Herself holding her bank statement, smiling with quiet assurance and whispering, it feels good to be free. She wasn't to see numbers or imagine miracles, only to feel the relief, the calm, the satisfaction. 2 weeks later, she wrote again. Out of nowhere, her employer announced back pay from a forgotten contract. It covered all her bills and left her with extra. But more than that, she said she felt a new peace. And that peace never left her. You see, once the emotional exchange rate shifts, the physical must follow. It cannot resist. The world is only the mirror. It must reflect the image you project inwardly. So if you wish to raise your outer income, you must first raise your inner vibration. Spend more time in gratitude than in doubt. Make joy your dominant currency. Treat every God moment as compound interest and every challenge as a test of your wealth, an opportunity to prove that your fortune lies within. And do not think that gratitude means ignoring pain or pretending life is perfect. Gratitude is not denial, it is alignment. It says, even here I choose to feel rich. The one who can find thankfulness in the midst of need has already converted his emotional currency into gold, and the world will rush to match it. Every time you choose peace over panic, generosity over judgment, confidence over complaint, you are raising your exchange rate, and life must pay you accordingly. Tonight, as you listen, imagine yourself as the central bank of your own reality. You control the flow of feeling, the printing of joy, the distribution of faith. Let no counterfeit thought pass your inspection. Issue only that which carries the stamp of truth. I am wealthy, I am safe, I am provided for. Feel these words not as hopes, but as established fact. Let their vibration fill our inner atmosphere until even your breathing feels prosperous. For breath itself is the proof of abundance. It comes freely, it circulates endlessly, and it costs nothing, yet sustains everything. So remember this, what you feel is what you spend, and what you spend is what you receive. Anxiety will always buy anxiety. Gratitude will always buy grace. Peace will always buy provision. The universe trades in nothing else. If you can grasp this, truly grasp it, you will never again chase money. For you will have found the secret of wealth that no market can alter, the emotional exchange rate of the soul. To sustain that inner wealth, you must now learn how to mint its gold. To use imagination itself as the divine mint that presses your feelings into form, where ideas become substance and dreams become your daily bread. If feeling is the currency of heaven, then imagination is its mint, the sacred place where invisible wealth takes shape, where every thought is pressed into the coin of experience and stamped with the seal of conviction. You do not earn through labor what imagination can produce in a moment of acceptance. The outer world may call it fantasy, but imagination is the most practical power man possesses. It is the workshop of God within you. Everything you see, touch, and use was once a shadow in someone's mind. The chair beneath you, the roof above you, the very sound of my voice. The unseen conceived it, and then time merely revealed what was already real in consciousness. And so it is with wealth, with health, with love, with every good thing. To imagine is to create, and to feel your imagination as true is to make creation inevitable. When I tell you that imagination is the divine mint, I mean that every image you hold and clothe with feeling is impressed upon the substance of the universe like gold pressed into a coin. The press does not question whether the design is wise or foolish, noble or base. It simply records and reproduces what is given to it. When you imagine lack, it strikes that image upon the field of life and gives you shortage. When you imagine sufficiency, it mints that same wealth into visible form. And the only difference between the dreamer who starves and the dreamer who thrives is the feeling each attaches to his dream. Years ago, when I was still learning this law, I tested it in the simplest way possible. I had long desired to visit my family in Barbados. Yet, I had not the means to travel. Rather than resign myself to reason, I went inward. Each night, as I lay in bed, I would close my eyes and imagine that I was no longer in New York, but already there, that the humid air of the tropics was upon my skin, that I heard the sea against the shore, that I felt the warmth of my family's embrace. I did not see ships or planes or tickets. I simply felt there. Night after night, I played that scene in imagination until it became more real than the room in which I lay. Then one day, without my lifting a finger, events began to unfold. A letter arrived. An invitation was extended. and a passage was paid for by another. It seemed a miracle to those who saw it, but I knew it was simply the law in motion, the mint striking the image I had already impressed upon it. This is how every miracle occurs. The unseen always precedes the seen. Imagination is not a daydream. It is the act of creation itself. You are God's image maker, and every time you think, you mold substance, but the molding becomes permanent only when you feel the image as real. Words and pictures alone are nothing. They are like sketches on sand erased by the next tide of doubt. But when you add feeling, when you breathe life into the image, it becomes fixed in the substance of reality, and the world must echo it in form. Think of imagination as the divine mint and feeling as the heat that fuses the design into metal. Without the heat, the press cannot stamp. Without the feeling, the image cannot last. So when you imagine, do not merely see, feel. Let your entire body participate in the dream. Feel the weight of the coin in your hand, the texture of the note, the sound of laughter that comes from freedom. The mind alone is a draftsman. Feeling is the craftsman that makes the draft a reality. I remember once advising a young man who was desperate to start his own business. He had an idea but no funds, and every door he knocked upon remained closed. I told him, stop knocking, sit quietly tonight and imagine your business already thriving. See the shop, smell the paper and the wood, feel the money being counted, the satisfaction of customers, the pride of your work completed, but above all, feel the joy of success as if it were happening now. He did as I said. In a few weeks, a family friend offered him an empty space, rent-free for 3 months. Another acquaintance provided supplies at cost. The customers came as if drawn by an unseen magnet. He later told me, Neville, I didn't build that business. I remembered it. And that, indeed, is the secret. Creation is not making something new, but remembering what is eternally present in imagination. You see, imagination is infinite, eternal, inexhaustible. It is the womb of all possibilities. You can no more exhaust it than you can exhaust the ocean by taking a cup of water. Every idea that enters your mind is an invitation from this divine treasury, asking only that you clothe it in feeling so it may become flesh. And when you feel your imagined state is real, when you taste the fruit of your own assumption, the invisible begins to harden into fact. Life rearranges itself around your conviction as metal conforms to the die in the mint. So I say to you, never beg for money, create it. Never chase opportunity, form it in imagination, shape your world as you desire it to be, and then rest in the certainty that the design has been impressed upon the eternal substance. When you awake tomorrow, act naturally, walk as one who knows it is done. You do not need to monitor how the mint operates. It is perfect law. You need only to ensure that the image pressed within you carries the vibration of completion. And remember, the outer world is not a rival mint producing its own coins of fate. It is your mirror stamping into visible relief the patterns you have set within. If you would change the reflection, change the design. The poor man imagines lack and receives lack. The rich man imagines freedom and receives it. Both are using the same law, but only one knows it. When you begin to understand imagination as the golden mint of creation, you cease to worry about the means. For means are merely the machinery of the mint, the presses and the gears that life uses to bring forth your assumption. You do not command the machinery, you command the design. Once you've pressed your image into imagination and sealed it with feeling, the machinery will operate with absolute precision, drawing people, ideas, and events together to fulfill the pattern you have established. Head. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, do not fill your mind with worries or unfinished plans. Enter the silence and imagine not as a beggar hoping to be answered, but as a creator remembering his design. Feel the sweetness of success already tasted, the quiet peace of abundance already received. Let the picture play gently without strain until it feels natural. Then release it. The mint has recorded your decree. The world will soon bear its imprint. Imagination is the divine mint and feeling is the seal of authenticity. The moment you feel your imagined wish is real, it becomes legal tender in the kingdom of heaven, and heaven always pays its debts in kind. The world cannot deny the claim stamped by faith. It must deliver the form in time. So go ahead. Press your image boldly, feel it deeply, and then rest, for the golden mint never fails. And now that the image has been struck and sealed with feeling, it must be placed in the vault of silence where all things mature unseen. For the and most sacred part of creation is rest, the stillness of faith before dawn. There is a reason the ancients called sleep a little death, for in that sacred descent into stillness, the mind is stripped of its outer armor. The senses withdraw from the noise of the day, and man returns to the invisible realm from which all things are born. It is there in that twilight between waking and sleep that imagination rules as absolute sovereign, unchallenged by reason, undisturbed by doubt. Whatever picture you impress upon the mind in that state is planted deep in the fertile soil of the subconscious, and by law it must sprout into form. I tell you, there is no more powerful moment in your entire day than the one just before sleep. That is the doorway between worlds, the passage from the seen to the unseen, and what you carry across that threshold determines what you awaken to tomorrow. Most people do not know this, and so they go to bed rehearsing the failures of the day, counting what they lack, fitting about tomorrow's debts, replaying scenes of irritation and fear. They carry worry into that holy temple of rest, and then wonder why their mourns are heavy and their circumstances unchanged. But you, if you would be wise, must reverse the pattern. You must enter that temple with reverence, carrying only the fragrance of fulfillment. You must fall asleep not as one waiting for supply, but as one who already has it, as one who rests after creation is complete. For it is written, and God saw that it was good, and he rested. Rest is not the end of creation. It is the evidence of its completion. I learned this truth through experience. In a time when I seemed pressed by lack, when every bill that arrived felt like a reminder of failure, I began a new ritual. Each night before sleep, I would turn my attention from the world of facts to the world of feeling. I would close my eyes and imagine not the process of earning, but the peace of having. I would feel myself lying in my bed. It's the quiet satisfaction of one who had just received good news, or the still joy of one whose affairs were now in perfect order. I would whisper inwardly, "Thank you, Father, it is done." I would let that feeling spread until every muscle loosened, every breath softened, and then I would drift into sleep. The outer situation did not change overnight, but my inner atmosphere did. And soon after, the outer followed with miraculous precision. Opportunities appeared where none existed. A delayed payment arrived unexpectedly. I awoke one morning, not just with money in hand, but with peace in heart. This is the secret. The last emotion you feel before sleep is the seed of your tomorrow. You may not recall the dream, but the subconscious does not forget. It takes that last feeling as instruction, as blueprint, as command. If you sleep in fear, it must build fear. If you sleep in gratitude, it must build grace. That is why I tell you to listen every night this October to let the words you hear before sleep saturate your inner world. For repetition is the law of growth, and feeling is the fertilizer of creation. When you drift into rest with the rhythm of wealth playing through your heart, you are literally training your subconscious to recognize abundance as normal. Think of your mind as a great garden. The waking day is when you sow seeds, your thoughts, your words, your assumptions. But night is when the garden is watered. The subconscious is the soil that never sleeps. It is always at work germinating what you have planted. If you plant weeds of worry, it will produce accordingly. If you plant flowers of faith, it will bring forth beauty. So guard the moment before sleep as a gardener guards his finest soil. Don't allow fear or frustration to enter. Instead, plant the seed of fulfillment. Water it with gratitude and let the silence do the rest. A student once came to me troubled by mounting debts and sleepless nights. She said, "Neville, I've tried everything affirmatio, NS, visualization, budgeting, but I wake up tired and afraid." I told her, "Then stop trying tonight. Do not fight with the darkness. Do not plead for light. Simply close your eyes and feel that everything is already settled. See yourself looking at your accounts, not with panic, but with peace. Hear yourself sigh with relief. Fall asleep in that feeling." She obeyed. For a few nights, nothing seemed to change, but then something curious happened. A forgotten inheritance surfaced through legal correspondence she hadn't expected to receive. It cleared every debt and left her with surplus. She told me later, "I didn't manifest money. I manifested rest, and rest brought the money." You see, the act of sleeping in wealth is not about creating money. It's about assuming the state of being that money must answer to. When you sleep feeling abundant, you align yourself with the rhythm of the universe itself. For the universe is always at rest. The planets do not strain to spin. The stars do not labor to shine. The seasons change in silence. Creation moves effortlessly because its foundation is faith. When you go to bed in that same spirit, in quiet trust, in peace, in gratitude, you become one with that eternal motion, and all things move to support you. And this is why I tell you, your nightly rest is not mere recovery, it is resurrection. Each night you die to the world of limitation, and each morning you rise renewed into the world of assumption. The self you take to bed is not the self that awakens. If you fall asleep as a beggar, you rise as a beggar. If you fall asleep as a king, you rise in dominion. The law cannot be broken, for the subconscious accepts only the image impressed upon it in the silence of sleep. So before you close your eyes tonight, take a moment to choose which self you will carry across the threshold. Will you fall asleep pleading for wealth or resting as wealth itself? The choice is yours, and whatever choice you make will become your waking world. I'll have you practice this every night in October, not as duty, but as delight. Lie down with intention. Feel the sheets as garments of abundance. Hear the night sounds as the music of supply. Whisper to yourself, "I am provided for. I am sustained. I am free." Let that sentence become your lullaby. The more often you do this, the deeper it will sink into your subconscious until the very act of lying down becomes an invocation of wealth. Then even your dreams will align with prosperity. You will begin to awaken, not into struggle, but into opportunity. The world will feel lighter, friendlier, more open, for it will be your own imagination returning to greet you. Do this faithfully, and one night, perhaps sooner than you expect, you will realize that you have crossed an invisible threshold. You will see that you are no longer trying to manifest wealth. You are living from it. You will recognize the peace in your heart as the true treasure, and the flow of money as its reflection. And when at moment comes, you will understand that you have never been poor, that poverty was only a forgotten dream, and that every October night you listened, you were not creating wealth, but remembering it. So tonight and every night fall asleep not as one seeking, but as one who has found. Rest not as one waiting for blessing, but as the blessing itself. For sleep is not the end of the day, it is the beginning of creation. As the inner seed of wealth grows silently in the dark soil of sleep, the world begins to echo your new identity in light. And now that your feeling is set, it's time to give it voice, to learn to speak as wealth itself. through the sacred word of command. There is a language that all of creation understands, a sound older than time and softer than thought. And though men have written books and built systems trying to capture it, it has never been anything other than this, the word I am. The first sound of the universe was not thunder, it was consciousness declaring itself. And the moment that sound was uttered, every form, every star, every atom came rushing into existence to obey it. You are that same consciousness speaking through form, and every word that follows I am is your decree to creation. Most people speak unconsciously, scattering their power in idle chatter, using this sacred phrase as a habit, not realizing that every time they say, I am tired, I am broke, I am struggling, they have just issued a command to the universe, a creative order that must be fulfilled. You are never punished for what you say. You are simply surrounded by its echo. I tell you now, your words are not empty vibrations that vanish into air. They are living seeds cast into the fertile soil of your own subconscious. Every word spoken in feeling takes root there and grows into the fruit of your world. The careless man speaks of lack and calls it honesty. He describes his misfortune and calls it realism, never realizing that he has mistaken confession for creation. The wise man speaks deliberately, knowing that the tongue is the rudder of imagination, that every sentence steers the ship of his life toward or away from the shore of his desire. He understands that language is not for describing reality, but for designing it. He does not report what is, he declares what shall be. When I began to see the creative power of my own speech, I felt both awe and responsibility. I noticed how casually I had used words of doubt, how easily I had agreed with limitation. I would say, I can't afford it, and life, being utterly obedient, would take me at my word. I would sigh. This always happens to me. And life, faithful servant that it is, would echo, as you wish. I was the one authoring my own lack with the pen of my tongue. Then I decided to change my vocabulary, not in public speech alone, but in the private conversation that runs beneath every moment. The ceaseless inner dialogue that shapes the contour of existence. It was not easy at first. The mind rebels against new declarations. The moment you say, I am wealthy, it throws up every memory of debt. The moment you affirm, I am free, it points to every visible chain. But this is where mastery begins. In choosing to persist in the new word until the echo of the old fades away, I would stand before the mirror and say softly, I am provided for, I am supplied, I am abundance in motion. At first it felt untrue, but I did not speak to convince the outer world. I spoke to awaken the inner one. I was not describing the visible. I was summoning the invisible. One evening a student asked me, Neville, isn't that lying to myself? I smiled and said, no, it is lying to the lie. For what you call reality is only the shadow of your old assumption. When you say, I am wealthy, you are not pretending, you are proclaiming the truth behind the illusion. You are calling the unseen into form as the Creator did in the beginning when he said, let there be light, and there was light. So let me tell you plainly, to change your world, you must first change your language. Eliminate every word that denies your power. Speak not of what you fear, but of what you choose. Never say I don't have. Instead say I am receiving. Never say I can't afford. Instead say I am provided for. Replace complaint with thanksgiving and watch how quickly your world mirrors your new vocabulary. The universe has no ears for words spoken without feeling. It listens to tone, to vibration, to conviction. When you speak from the heart of knowing, the command travels instantly to the subconscious and the machinery of the world rearranges itself to fulfill it. I remember a man who once came to me in despair. He had lost his business, his confidence, and his health. He spoke of himself with words like failure, ruin, worthless. I told him, you must learn a new language. He laughed bitterly and said, "What good will words do me now?" I said, "Every good thing, because words are not sounds, they are directions." You've been giving the universe the wrong address. I asked him to begin each morning with this decree: I am rising, I am renewed, I am wealth awakening. I instructed him to speak it slowly, not as a wish, but as though it were already so. For a week, nothing seemed to happen. But by the second, he found himself invited to a gathering where he met an old acquaintance who offered him work. Within months, his life had reversed. He told me, "Neville, it felt like magic." I said it was not magic, it was accuracy. You gave the law the right command. The law of speech is exact. Words are instruments through which the divine plays its melody. If you would hear harmony, you must tune your speech to truth. Idle words are discord. Complaints are false notes. The symphony of wealth is written in the simple, steady rhythm of affirmation. I am, I have, I thank, I rest. These four are the pillars of creation. And if you will live by them, you will see the music of your imagination become matter before you. Our eyes. I urge you in these nights of October to listen carefully to how you speak, not only aloud, but inwardly. Each time you catch yourself saying, "I can't," pause and say instead, "I can." Each time you think it's hard, whisper, "It's done." Each time you feel tempted to describe lack, declare abundance. Your tongue is the scepter of your world. Use it as a king, not as a servant. When you speak, speak as the source, not the seeker. Speak as God speaks, not to request, but to command. And when the old habits return, as they will, do not condemn yourself. Simply return to the truth. The new word will soon become natural, the new tone effortless. You will find that your speech slows, softens, deepens. For every master of creation speaks with calm authority. The beggar shouts, the creator whispers. The one who knows need not repeat himself. A single word spoken in faith carries more power than 1,000 shouted in fear. So let your words be few but full. Let them be born of peace and let them carry the signature of certainty. Speak only that which you wish to see. For when your speech becomes pure, your world will reflect its purity. To command is not to ask. It is to declare from the center of knowing. And so in the next breath, I will show you the sacred phrase, the October decree. The single command that when spoken from the heart of feeling, align you with the infinite rhythm of wealth itself. There is a moment when words cease to be words and become power. When speech stops being communication and becomes creation. That moment arrives when feeling and faith merge into one sound, one vibration, one living decree that the universe cannot ignore. I call this the October decree, not because it belongs to a particular month, but because October, with its turning leaves and quiet nights, mirrors the sacred rhythm of the law itself, release, rest, and renewal. Just as the earth lets go of the old season to prepare for the new, so too must you release your old confession. Savlak and declare the new state of being. This decree is not a request sent to some faraway God, nor a charm repeated in hope. It is the direct assertion of your divine identity, the affirmation that you are the source from which all wealth flows. I discovered the power of such a decree one night many years ago when my circumstances were pressing hard upon me. I had spoken affirmations before, but they felt mechanical, hollow words without life. That night, however, I decided to speak differently. I sat in stillness until my breathing slowed and my mind grew quiet. And then I whispered not to the world, but to myself. I am wealth. I am abundance in motion. I am supply fulfilled. I did not repeat it endlessly. I spoke it once as a man who knows, not as one who hopes. I let the words sink into the silence, and I felt them echo there, not as sound, but as substance. I felt a current of peace flow through me, as though the decree had been received by something vast and invisible. From that moment, I knew the command had been heard not by some external force, but by the creative core of my own being. Within days, small signs began to appear. Letters, phone calls, unexpected gifts, new opportunities. But the true miracle was not in those things. It was in me. I had crossed from asking to declaring, from effort to authority. That, my friend, is the true purpose of the October decree, to move you from wishing into knowing, from striving into being. When you speak it in faith, you awaken law that has been waiting all along for your recognition. You must understand the power of the decree lies not in its words, but in the feeling behind them. The words are merely the container. The feeling is the wine. If you speak the decree as repetition, you will taste only the dryness of effort. But if you speak it as realization even once, it becomes eternal truth. So before you utter it, prepare yourself. Be still. Breathe slowly. Withdraw your attention from the day and let the world fall away. Imagine yourself surrounded by the gentle glow of contentment, that golden light of completion. Feel as though you have already arrived where you wish to go. Then from that state of fulfillment, speak softly but with conviction. I am wealth. I am abundance in motion. All that I desire is already mine, for I am the source from which it flows. Pause after speaking. Let the silence after the words carry their echo deeper than the words themselves. Feel the stillness that follows, as if the universe has leaned in to listen. This silence is not absence. It is fulfillment. It is the Sabbath of the spoken word, the holy rest after creation. You do not need to speak it again and again. One command spoken in faith is enough. To repeat it from fear is to doubt it. To speak it once with authority is to seal it forever. I remember telling one of my students this truth when she asked, should I repeat my affirmations every day? I said, only if you must remind yourself that it is done not to convince yourself. The law does not respond to repetition. It responds to realization. When you declare, I am wealth, and feel it as true, the entire structure of reality begins to shift. People, events, and opportunities move into position to reflect your new assumption. It may appear as coincidence, but it is divine choreography, the perfect synchronization of inner command and outer response. A man once tested this law in a moment of desperation. He was burdened by debt and fear, and I instructed him to stop discussing his lack altogether. Say nothing more about what is wrong, I told him. Instead, tonight speak this one decree and mean it. He did so. Sat alone in the dark, spoke quietly. It is finished. I am free. All accounts are balanced in my favor. And then he slept. In the morning, an old business partner reached out unexpectedly, offering to settle a forgotten account. The sum was exactly what he owed. The world had obeyed his decree, for he had spoken not as a man begging for help, but as God remembering himself. You must learn to speak that way, not to the sky, but from the throne of your own awareness. The decree must come from within, where I am dwells in eternal. Now speak from that place, and the vibration of your word becomes law. There is no delay, no distance, no hierarchy of difficulty. The law does not ask how much or how fast. It simply mirrors your assumption. The only condition is faith, and faith is nothing more than the sustained feeling of being. So, tonight when you listen, do not listen for entertainment or hope. Listen to awaken. When the words I am wealth enter your ears, let them settle in your heart as fact. Breathe them in as your own identity. Feel the current of life pulsing in rhythm with abundance itself. Then let go. Do not repeat. Do not strive. Do not seek. Simply rest in the certainty that the decree has been issued, the creation finished, the promise fulfilled. You may not see immediate evidence, but do not be deceived. The seed is already sown and its germination is sure. The decree has entered the subconscious. that infinite field where all causes sleep until summoned to bloom. The law is faithful. It cannot forget a command once spoken in truth. Your task now is not to push, but to trust. Not to demand, but to dwell in the feeling of accomplishment. The world will rearrange itself naturally without your supervision, because your word is law unto your own universe. The October decree is the seal of your creative authority. When spoken from feeling, it awakens the wealth vibration within you that was never absent, only unacknowledged. Let it be your sacred practice, not as ritual, but as remembrance. And each time you speak it, remember that you are not calling abundance to come to you. You are calling yourself to remember that you have always been abundance itself. Once the decree is spoken and the vibration released, your only task is to rest, to enter the silence of power, where faith replaces effort and the word fulfills itself in the quiet. For all creation ends as it began in stillness. After the decree has been spoken, after the vibration has gone forth, after you have felt the fullness of your own word, there must come a holy pause, a rest, a descent into silence that is not the absence of sound, but the presence of completion. It is here in this silence that all true creation takes root. It is the space between the seed and the sprout, between command and manifestation, and though to the out. Man, it appears as waiting. To the awakened one, it is the very pulse of fulfillment. The moment you have spoken the decree in faith, your work is done. Creation does not require endless repetition. It requires quiet assurance. Every seed planted in the ground must be left undisturbed, for to dig it up in search of proof is to kill it. So it is with the word. When you speak, I am wealth, and then rush to look for evidence, you have declared doubt louder than faith. But when you speak it, feel it, and rest, the law begins its invisible work in perfection. There is a silence beyond sound that all creation returns to the same silence that followed the words, "Let there be light." Even God rested after speaking, not because he grew weary, but because his faith was complete. That divine stillness was not inactivity, it was power at peace, the effortless momentum of certainty. And you, made in the image of that same principle, must learn to rest as he rested, knowing that your decree is full. Fill the instant it is spoken in truth. You must cultivate the art of quiet inner confidence, that poised serenity that refuses to be shaken by appearances. This is not indifference, it is mastery. It is knowing that the law is exact, that imagination never fails, that every command sealed with feeling must take form. When I speak of the silence of power, I do not mean a rigid, tense waiting, nor the uneasy stillness of suppressed doubt. I mean a living, breathing quietness, the soft hum of trust that fills the air after faith has done its work. It is the silence of a mother who, having planted her garden, does not sit beside each seed in worry, but walks away smiling, knowing the soil is faithful. It is the silence of the artist who, having finished his masterpiece, steps back and admires what the hand of inspiration has done through him. It is the silence of one who knows that the universe always keeps its word. There was a man who once came to me restless with impatience. He had spoken his decree, felt its truth, but could not stop looking for signs. "Neville," he said, "I've done everything you've said, yet nothing has happened." I told him, "That's precisely why nothing has happened, because you've refused to be still." He looked at me puzzled, and I said, "Your decree was perfect, but your faith was noisy. You spoke your word and then drowned it with questions. Silence is the proof of faith." He understood then, and that night he practiced what I call the Sabbath of manifestation. He spoke his command once more. "I am free, it is finished." And then he surrendered all effort. He stopped searching, stopped comparing, stopped asking. He simply rested in peace. Within a week, his situation reversed entirely. His word had been working all along, waiting only for his silence to bloom. You see, when you enter the silence after creation, you are not being passive. You are joining the rhythm of the law. The entire universe expands and contracts in cycles of sound and stillness, of expression and rest. The wave rises, peaks, and falls into calm. The breath enters, fills, and then pauses before exhaling. All life moves in this holy rhythm, and you must learn to move with it. To speak without resting is to breathe without exhaling. It leads only to suffocation. To rest without speaking is to sleep without dreaming. It leads only to stagnation. The complete act of creation is a circle of word and silence, feeling and faith, motion and rest. After you have spoken your decree, turn your attention away from its manifestation and toward the stillness within. Feel the satisfaction of one who knows the harvest is already growing unseen. When doubt tries to intrude, do not fight it. Simply return to quiet. Say within yourself, "It is done," and mean it. The greatest discipline is not in speaking affirmations, but in refusing to contradict them with anxious thought. Silence is the armor of faith. It is the invisible wall that keeps out the noise of fear. When you dwell in it, no external condition can disturb the equilibrium of your inner state. I often remind my students that anxiety is the thief of miracles. The moment you begin to wonder if it will come, you have stepped outside the vibration of completion. The universe cannot fill a vessel that keeps spilling its content. The cup of consciousness must remain still for the water of creation to overflow. When you are restless, you are emptying yourself faster than life can pour in. But when you are still, the law pours into you until your cup runs over. This is why gratitude and rest are the twin pillars of manifestation. Gratitude affirms that it is done. Rest proves that you believe it. There will come a time as you continue this practice when silence itself becomes your constant companion. You will find yourself no longer needing to declare aloud, for your entire being will hum with quiet authority. You will move through the world with the composure of one who knows his word is law. People will sense in your presence. That still power, that peace, that commands without effort. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is the recognition that you are one with the source, and that to speak once in truth is enough. Let me tell you, true silence is not emptiness. It is fullness beyond measure. It is not the absence of thought, but the presence of knowing. When you rest in it, ideas will come unbidden. Opportunities will flow naturally, and guidance will arise like a whisper from your own depths. That whisper is the voice of God, the eternal I Am, reminding you that creation is finished and that your only work now is to witness its unfolding. So tonight, after you have listened, after you have spoken your decree, enter that silence. Do not reach, do not grasp, do not beg. Simply breathe and feel the weight of completion settle over you. Feel as though every cell in your body is glowing with the light of it is done. Let the silence expand until it fills the room, until you sense that L of creation is holding its breath with you. Then let go and sleep. That sleep will not be escape, but communion, the holy Sabbath of faith. And when you awaken, the world will have shifted. Subtly perhaps, but unmistakably, you will notice new ease, new flow, new signs of alignment. That is the proof of your rest. Learn this rhythm, the word, the silence, the manifestation, and you will have mastered the very pulse of creation. For power is not in the noise of effort, but in the stillness of knowing. The silence of power is not empty. It is the echo of God's first decree resounding forever. I am. The command spoken must be followed by rest, the Sabbath of fulfillment. For the silence of power is the cradle in which every miracle is born. Now let us move gently into that sacred stillness and learn to live from the proof of faith itself, the Sabbath of fulfillment. There comes a point in every act of creation where striving must stop, where the mind must lower its tools and the heart move. Seat enter rest. This is the Sabbath of fulfillment, the holy moment when you no longer build, but behold. To cease from mental labor does not mean to surrender in defeat. It means to surrender in faith. It is the sacred pause when the craftsman steps back from his sculpture and says, "It is finished," even before the world has seen what he has seen. For creation does not end when the outer form appears. It ends when the inner certainty arrives. Once you know within yourself that the work is complete, that your decree is fulfilled, that the wealth, the freedom, the love, the abundance are already established in the unseen, then you have entered the Sabbath of your soul. And from that stillness, all things unfold without effort. Most people never rest, even when their bodies are still. Their minds continue their ceaseless labor, hammering with worry, chiseling with doubt, trying to force outcomes that can only grow in peace. They pray and then immediately question the prayer, plant a seed, and then dig it up to see if it has sprouted. They speak words of power by day and cancel them by night with anxious thought. But I tell you, until you learn to rest, truly rest, your harvest cannot come. For the law of life is rest, and all creation moves in its rhythm. The tides do not strain to rise. The stars do not fret about shining. The earth does not hurry its orbit. The same still wisdom that governs the galaxies governs the unfolding of your desire, and you must learn to mirror its calm. Ceasing from mental labor begins with recognition. The quiet acknowledgement that nothing needs to be done. When you have spoken your decree, when you have felt it as real, the work is finished in the only place that matters within. Everything after that is merely the unfolding of what already is. This is the meaning of divine rest. Not idleness, not complacency, but the active confidence that life is self-sustaining. You no longer need to plan how abundance will come. You only need to rema. In the state of already having, the energy that once went into striving now becomes the gentle hum of certainty. There was a time when I too confused activity with creation. I believed I had to make things happen, to think harder, to work longer, to keep my mind constantly engaged in producing results. And so I labored mentally as others labor physically, exhausting myself in thought, rehearsing every possible way my dream might come to pass. Yet all my effort yielded little, for I was interfering with the very process that gives life to manifestation. Then one night, in a moment of deep weariness, I gave up. I sat in silence, emptied of plans, and said to myself, if imagination truly creates, then all is already done. Why then should I worry? In that moment, a great peace descended upon me. Not resignation, but realization. I felt the truth of completion. I slept that night as I had never slept before. And when I awoke, the outer circumstances began to move as if choreographed by an unseen intelligence. Things that had seemed impossible aligned effortlessly. It was as though my rest had opened the gate that my effort had kept shut. To cease from mental labor is to remember that the universe is not your servant. It is your reflection. You cannot command reflection by shouting at the mirror. You can only change it by changing your expression. The mirror obeys naturally, so too does life. You need not struggle to make wealth appear. You need only stop contradicting its appearance with thoughts of lack. You need not wrestle with the outer world. You need only rest in the awareness that the inner world already contains all. When you are calm, creation flows. When you are still, movement begins. When you are quiet, the universe speaks. There is a story of a man who spent years chasing success through sheer mental exertion. He analyzed, calculated, and strategized. Yet, every opportunity slipped through his fingers. One day he attended a talk of mine where I said, restful is the proof of faith. Those words stayed with him. That night, instead of working late, as he always did, he sat quietly by the window and allowed himself to feel the satisfaction of a man already successful. He did not visualize specific events. He simply felt contentment. He told me later that it felt like exhaling after years of holding his breath. The next morning, a letter arrived, an offer for a partnership he had long desired but believed impossible. It came, he said, when I finally stopped trying to make it come. That is the Sabbath of fulfillment. You see, mental labor is born of doubt. The mind works feverishly only when it does not trust. The moment you truly believe, you relax. The muscles soften, the breath deepens, the heart quiets. Faith is rest, and rest is the highest form of action. When you can be still while the outer world appears unchanged, you have mastered creation. The one who can rest in uncertainty commands certainty, for he knows that what he feels in must soon appear without. So how do you practice this rest? Begin by catching yourself in the duck act of striving. Notice when your mind begins to calculate or your heart begins to tense. In that moment, remind yourself it is finished. Take a breath, release the thought, and let silence take its place. Do this often, and soon you will find that peace becomes your natural state. You will no longer feel the need to force results, for results will begin to arrive of their own accord. To rest is to trust the seed. Once you have planted your assumption, the soil of consciousness will do the rest. You cannot see the roots growing, yet they grow. You cannot watch the buds form, yet they form. So it is with every desire fulfilled. The moment you feel it as real, it begins to take shape in the unseen. All your restless thinking is only the wind disturbing the surface of the soil. Be still and let the harvest come in its season. When you live this way, life becomes effortless. You discover the key. Creation was never a struggle, but a song, a divine rhythm of imagining and resting, of breathing in desire and breathing out fulfillment. The mind that once raced begins to move in harmony with the eternal pulse. You cease to chase, you begin to attract, you cease to beg, you begin to bless. And as you rest, wealth begins to flow toward you in waves. Not because you have earned it, but because you have allowed it. Cease from mental labor, my friend. Lay down the heavy tools of doubt and take up the lightness of faith. Stop measuring progress by what your eyes see and start trusting the quiet movements of the unseen. For every time you enter the Sabbath of rest, you are declaring, I trust the law. I trust my imagination. I trust that what I have spoken is already mine. And that trust, that rest, that peace is the final word of creation. The Sabbath begins when striving ends. And now that your inner labor has ceased, the time has come to live as though your desire were already fulfilled. Led to walk, speak, and give as one who is truly free. To live as the free is not merely to imagine freedom once and wait for it to appear. It is to breathe it, to walk it, to carry it, like an invisible fragrance that fills every moment with quiet assurance. Once you have entered the Sabbath within, you are no longer a beggar standing before the gates of abundance. You are the owner walking through your own estate. Freedom, real freedom, begins not when debts are paid or wealth arrives, but when the soul ceases to measure itself by appearances and starts acting from the knowing that it already possesses all it has ever desired. You must learn to live from that knowing, not toward it, to speak, spend, move, and give as though you were already the embodiment of supply itself. For the world cannot resist the vibration of one who knows he is free. The outer must rearrange itself to match the inner certainty of the one who walks as wealth personified. Think of how a king moves through his palace. He does not rush from room to room checking if his treasures still belong to him. He does not plead with his servants for the meal already being prepared. He walks in the calm dignity of ownership, knowing that everything in his domain moves in perfect order to his unspoken will. So must you learn to move through your world. The world is your palace. Your mind is the throne, and every circumstance, every person, every event is but a servant responding to your silent decree. To live as the free is to stop checking, to stop asking, to stop looking for proof, because proof follows possession, never precedes it. You must dare to feel rich before the evidence arrives, and in that daring, the evidence is compelled to appear. This is where most falter. They affirm, I am abundant, yet still count the coins in their purse. They declare, I am free, yet still wait for permission to act as such. But creation is not confirmed by waiting. It is confirmed by being. The moment you act from feeling of already being supplied, the law of correspondence begins its work. Life rushes to meet you at the level of your assumption. Every gesture of gratitude, every confident choice, every generous act declares to the universe, this is who I am, and the universe must echo it. When you walk in freedom, freedom walks toward you. When you give from abundance, abundance gathers around you. The law cannot do otherwise. I recall a woman who once came to me weeping, saying, Neville, I have nothing left. I'm drowning in debt. How can I pretend to be wealthy when I can barely feed myself? And I told her, you need not pretend, my dear. You only need to feel. I asked her, if you were truly wealthy, how would you feel as you rose each morning? How would you move through the day? What would you do differently, not with money, but with thought? She said she would breathe easier, smile more, perhaps take a walk without fear. And I said, then begin there. Walk as the free, even if only in your spirit, and the world will soon mirror that freedom. She began to act from that feeling. She would dress with care, give thanks for every meal, and speak as though supply was certain. Within weeks, small opportunities began to appear. First, a neighbor's favor, then a friend's offer of work, then a sudden forgiveness of a debt. I stopped chasing, she said, and began living. That is the key to live from the end, not toward it. Every act you perform from the state of freedom plants a seed in the soil of the subconscious. The gesture may seem small, a smile instead of a sigh, gratitude instead of complaint, but each carries the full vibration of your assumption. The subconscious does not measure scale, it measures feeling. When you feel rich in thought, every detail of your world begins to reflect richness. Doors open where walls once stood. Invitations come from nowhere. Solutions arrive through channels you could never have planned. This is not magic, it is law. The outer must conform to the inner image once that image becomes steady. So how do you maintain this state when the senses still report lack? You do so by refusing to consult them for truth. Your eyes show you yesterday's imagination. They are mirrors of what you once believed. To live as the free is to look beyond appearances, to treat every contrary condition as a shadow without power. You do not argue with shadows. You simply turn toward the light. When bills arrive, bless them as proof that energy is moving. When delays occur, bless them as evidence that unseen order is arranging. You are not reacting, you are responding from mastery. The free do not fight the storm. They stand above it, knowing it only serves to reveal their dominion. You may say, but Neville, how can I act wealthy when my world tells me otherwise? And I say, your world tells you what you once believed, not what you are believing now. The transformation is not instant, but inevitable. When a new vibration is sustained, it begins to replace the old. Every feeling of wealth lived faithfully, every act of generosity given joyfully, every word of thanksgiving spoken sincerely pushes the old reality further into shadow until it fades completely. One day you will awaken and realize that the world has caught up to the song you've been singing in silence all along. To live as the free is to walk in thanksgiving. Gratitude is not a reaction to what has happened. It is the creative acknowledgement of what is true. You do not thank the world for giving, you thank your imagination for having given already. Gratitude is the sound of faith resting. When you can feel grateful for unseen blessings, you are declaring to creation that you trust its order, and the moment gratitude becomes natural, wealth becomes inevitable. I often say to my listeners, stop saving gratitude for when something happens. Begin using it as the atmosphere in which things happen. Wake each morning and give thanks not for the day you hope to have be you. T for the abundance that already surrounds you. Give thanks for breath, for sunlight, for thought, for imagination, for all our forms of wealth. When you train your mind to see wealth in everything, money becomes only one more expression of that infinite richness. There is a peace that settles over the one who lives this way. It is not indifference, but divine assurance. You begin to feel that life is on your side, that unseen hands are guiding your every step. You no longer panic over how things will unfold, for you know that the outer is only catching up to the inner certainty. You find yourself moving without resistance, speaking with ease, and every gesture carries quiet power. You've become magnetic, not because you chase, but because you radiate. So tonight, as you listen, begin to imagine yourself living as the free. See yourself walking lightly, smiling easily, moving through your day without fear. Feel the calm confidence of one who already has everything he could ever need. Let that feeling become your dwelling place. And tomorrow carry it with you into every conversation, every decision, every exchange. The moment you live from that state, life begins to rearrange to serve it. That is the secret. You do not live to become free. You live because you are free. The world now reflects your new rhythm. But as you live from this wealth and freedom, signs begin to appear. Small confirmations that the law is working. Each sign is a whisper from the universe saying, yes, this is the way. Let us now learn how to recognize those signs and walk in harmony with them. When you begin to live as the wealthy, as the free, something beautiful and subtle starts to unfold in the rhythm of your days. The world, once stubborn and silent, begins to whisper back to you. The whispers come in the form of coincidences, unexpected favors, surprising kindness, gentle alignments, what the sleeping man calls luck, but what the awakened one knows as signs. These are not random, they are reflections. They are the footprints of your new assumption, appearing upon the soil of experience. Every sign is a mirror, held to the face of your imagination saying, this is what you've believed. You see, the outer world is nothing more than the echo chamber of your inner tone. And once your song changes, the walls of the universe must respond with harmony. At first, these signs may come softly. A small refund, a forgotten bill forgiven, a stranger offering help, a compliment from nowhere, or a feeling of lightness where heaviness used to dwell. Do not dismiss them. These are the first leaves of spring, breaking through the ground of old winter thoughts. If you rush past them, you miss the wonder of watching the invisible become visible. When I first began to live from this truth, I remember receiving a simple letter, a kind note from a friend I hadn't seen in years, enclosing a small sum of money and words of gratitude. It wasn't the amount that moved me. It was the recognition, my inner shift had found its first echo in the world of form. I said within myself, it has begun. And that night, I gave thanks, not for the letter, but for the confirmation that my new state had taken root. The signs are not rewards. They are responses. They are not tests to see if the law works. They are the natural evidence that it always has. Every so-called coincidence is the materialization of a spiritual cause. The law never fails, but man forgets to watch. And when he does watch, he watches with anxiety instead of awe, asking, is it happening yet? That question itself is a confession of doubt. The true watcher rests. He observes not with impatience, but with gratitude. He knows that every flutter of circumstance, every change in the wind is a messenger of the inner transformation that has already occurred. Do not underestimate small beginnings. The seed does not despise its own size. It knows what it contains. A single sign, a minor shift in circumstance may carry the promise of an entire harvest. The wise one does not demand the full tree at once. He rejoices in the sprout and nourishes it with faith. When you see the first evidence of alignment, celebrate it quietly. Say within, this is the shadow of what is to come. Give thanks and then release it, knowing that the law will continue its perfect unfolding. Gratitude is the watering of your garden. Joy is the sunlight that strengthens it. There is a great secret in how you treat these early signs. If you grasp them too tightly, if you fixate on them with anxiety, you choke the growth of your manifestation. But if you regard them with calm thanksgiving, you multiply them. The law of increase is gratitude. The law of decrease is complaint. If you receive a small blessing and say it's not enough, you declare lack once more and the flow diminishes. But if you say this is wonderful, you invite the universe to send more of the same. The echo of your joy becomes the rhythm of your reality. You must train yourself to see every good thing as the sign of something greater, not as an exception to the rule. Remember this, wealth, like any form of creation, unfolds in rhythm. It does not arrive all at once. It grows as your conviction matures. When a river begins to flow, it starts with a single drop, then a stream, then a flood. If you only celebrate the flood, you miss the miracle of the first drop. The first sign of alignment is the promise of completion. When you thank the first, you open the gate for the rest. You do not force the flood. You allow it by remaining faithful to the feeling of already having. I once spoke with a man who had practiced this very principle. He told me he would go to bed each night feeling as though he were already wealthy, already free. Within a few days, he began to notice small changes. An old friend reaching out, an opportunity appearing at work, unexpected refunds and discounts. Yet he dismissed them at first, saying, "These are just coincidences." But after he are hearing me speak of signs, he realized these were the early waves of his own command returning to him. He began to celebrate each one, saying within himself, "This is evidence that the law is working through me." Within weeks, his income increased dramatically, not through struggle, but through alignment. The moment I started seeing every good thing as confirmation, he said, they multiplied until I couldn't keep count. You see, faith does not make things happen. It recognizes that they are happening already. When you tune your consciousness to the wealth frequency, the world starts tuning itself to you. Every act of kindness, every fortunate event, every unexpected provision is the reflection of your state. The more you recognize them, the faster the reflection expands. The world loves to be acknowledged. It mirrors the attitude of its observer. If you look for lack, you'll find it everywhere. If you look for signs of abundance, they will rush to greet you. So when something good crosses your path, no matter how small, pause for a moment and acknowledge it. Feel the warmth of gratitude rise within you and say quietly, "This too is God in motion." That simple awareness amplifies your vibration. The universe, hearing your silent recognition, responds with greater and greater evidence of your assumption made flesh. Gratitude is not mere politeness. It is creative power in motion. You may notice that as you live from this state, not only money, but every aspect of your life begins to harmonize. Relationships heal, opportunities align, inspiration flows. For wealth is not an isolated condition. It is harmony itself. It is the natural rhythm of a soul in alignment with divine order. When you are in tune with wealth, everything begins to sing with you. The world becomes responsive, kind, generous, alive with meaning. You start to feel as though the air itself conspires for your good. And it does. for you have become one with the living current that governs all creation. A.N.D. If at times the signs seem to pause, do not despair. Even the tide withdraws before it returns with greater force. Apparent stillness is not absence, it is incubation. The law is never idle. It is always forming new expressions behind the veil of visibility. When you see nothing happening, that is often when the deepest shifts are occurring. Continue in faith, continue in thanksgiving, and soon the harvest will show itself. Now listen closely. Signs do not only appear in the world, they appear in you. The softening of fear, the easing of anxiety, the deep sense of calm that settles over you. These are the first and greatest signs. The world merely echoes them later. When you feel peace where there was panic, confidence where there was confusion, you are witnessing creation's first movement. That feeling of inner wealth is the true manifestation. All else is its reflection. You do not wait for money to know you are rich. You feel richness, and money appears to validate what you all read. Why new? So let this be your practice. Notice everything that feels aligned, every detail that confirms your freedom, and give silent thanks. Smile inwardly knowing that you and the universe are conversing in the only language that matters, the language of feeling. Keep this dialogue alive and you will find that every day brings new confirmations, new proofs, new joys. The signs will grow louder until the entire world seems to sing your song back to you. And when the song of wealth fills your days, when every sign assures you that you are one with abundance, something deeper begins to stir, the realization that wealth was never meant to be stored but to flow. For abundance is not possession, it is circulation. Let us now enter that holy rhythm where giving and receiving become one. Unbroken motion, the rhythm of overflow. There comes a moment in every awakened life when the seeker realizes that abundance was never meant to be captured, contained, or clutched. It was meant to circulate, to breathe, to move. The river does not hoard its water, nor does the sun ration its light. Their very nature is giving, and it is in that giving that they remain full. The world of man, however, in its fear of lack, has forgotten this rhythm. He clings to what he has, tightens his grip, and in that very contraction, he stops the flow that would have multiplied him 1,000-fold. To live in wealth's true rhythm is to remember that abundance is not static. It is dynamic, ever moving, ever returning. What you release in love returns to you in increase. The miser's hand is closed and so it can receive nothing new. But the open hand, the generous heart, the mind that knows there is always more stands in perfect harmony with the pulse of creation itself. You see, money like air is circulation. The breath that you exhale is not loss. It is the very act that makes room for new life to enter. When you give, when you spend joyfully, when you share without calculation, you are exhaling wealth. And that exhalation is what summons the next breath of abundance. Every act of generosity is an affirmation of faith, a declaration that you trust the unseen source that never runs dry. To give from fear is depletion. To give from fullness is multiplication. When you move in this rhythm, you stop being the one who seeks wealth and become wealth itself expressing. I remember once during a period when my funds were low, I felt the old temptation to hold, to conserve, to wait until more came in. But an inner voice whispered, "Give and it shall be given unto you." I hesitated, yet the feeling persisted. So I acted not recklessly, but faithfully. I gave to another who seemed in greater need, not as charity, but as a recognition that there was no lack in me. That week, a letter arrived with an unexpected gift that far exceeded what I had released, but more than the material return. What struck me was the peace that had come over me, a serenity that no amount of saving could have bought. for IH. Add, remember the truth. The only wealth that grows is the wealth that moves. Think of the ocean. It gives itself endlessly to the shore. And yet it is never diminished. Its fullness depends on its motion. If it stopped moving, it would stagnate and die. So too with you. You are an ocean of creative power, and your wealth remains alive only as you allow it to circulate. Every kind thought, every gift, every blessing you offer is a wave that must return in kind. To dam that flow is to deny your own nature. You were never meant to be a reservoir of riches, but a channel through which divine supply could express itself. The fearful man says, "When I have enough, then I'll give." But the wise one knows, "I give because I already have." The first waits for the world to prove his faith. The second proves his faith and lets the world follow. Giving is not the privilege of the wealthy. It is the cause of wealth itself. The poorest man who blesses what he has multiplies it. The richest man who fears to share loses his riches in the poverty of his own heart. The act of circulation, whether of money, love, time, or thought, is creation in its most natural form. Every time you give joyfully, you are declaring that you are not bound by appearances. You are saying to the universe, "I know my supply is infinite," and the universe echoes back, "So it is." When you live in the rhythm of overflow, your life takes on a grace that others cannot quite explain. You find that doors open without effort, that help arrives before you ask, that opportunities seem to find you in the most perfect timing. It is because you have aligned yourself with the current of divine order. And that current never moves in straight lines. It swirls, it circulates, it gives and receives simultaneously. The same law that governs the movement of galaxies governs the flow of your finances. The law of motion born from stillness, of giving born from fullness. I once told a student who was terrified of losing what lit she had, "If you truly fear losing, then begin to bless what you give. When you hand over $1, see it as a seed alive, potent, capable of returning tenfold." And she did. Every time she spent, she would say quietly, "Thank you for the increase." Within weeks, her income rose. "It feels impossible," she told me, "but somehow, the more I give, the more I have." I smiled and said, "It's not impossible. It's the only way creation knows to sustain itself." The rhythm of overflow does not reward the giver for generosity. It simply mirrors the giver's state. To give is to proclaim abundance. To withhold is to proclaim lack. Life has no choice but to agree with whichever you affirm. And giving need not always be material. A kind word spoken sincerely. A blessing offered silently. A smile given freely. These two are wealth in motion. Every vibration of love, every moment of joy shared without expectation is a spiritual transaction that enriches both the giver and the receiver. You cannot give to another without giving to yourself, for there is no other. When you bless another's prosperity, you invite your own. When you rejoice in another's success, you multiply your own opportunities. This is the hidden rhythm of divine economy. That which you send out from your consciousness must return to you clothed in new form. So tonight, as you listen, release the idea of accumulation and replace it with the idea of circulation. Picture wealth as a radiant light moving through you, in and out, never static, always alive. Feel that flow expanding as you give thanks for what passes through your hands, knowing that it will return in greater measure. Say quietly to yourself, "I am the rhythm of wealth. I am the endless flow of good." Let that statement sink into your being until you no longer fear loss. For the one who knows himself as the source can never be without supply. And when you awaken tomorrow, carry that rhythm into your day. Pay a bill with joy. Give a compliment. Tea with sincerity. Offer a helping hand with no thought of return. Watch how quickly the world begins to mirror your generosity. For generosity is not an act, it is a state of consciousness. The one who gives because he is full will always find his cup refilled. The one who hoards because he fears will always find his storehouse empty. This is the great paradox. The more you give, the more you have. Because the act of giving affirms the truth that you already are abundant. You are the ocean, not the drop. You are the sun, not the shadow it casts. You are the infinite well from which all wealth springs. When you live in the rhythm of overflow, you no longer measure your life by possessions, but by expressions. How freely, how fully, how joyfully the divine moves through you. So let this become your practice, not only for October, but for every season that follows. Each night before sleep, release gratitude for all that flowed through you that day. The conversations, the opportunities, tea, laughter, the moments of giving and receiving. And then, as you drift into silence, feel that same current moving through your heart, a golden tide that never ends. That is the wealth frequency fulfilled, not the still pool of possession, but the ever-moving sea of circulation. And as this sea moves within you, as you live and give and receive with effortless joy, you will notice something wondrous. The very rhythm that brought you wealth begins to transform you. The practice becomes the state. You begin to feel that wealth is not something you have, it is something you are. Let us now enter the sacred stillness where this truth is sealed. The nightly practice of wealth. There comes a sacred hour in every day. An hour when the world begins to soften and the veil between the seen and unseen grows thin. That quiet descent between waking and sleep. It is in that tender silence that all creation begins again. The mind, loosened from the tyranny of fact, begins to dream more vividly. Imagine. Creation no longer bound by reason becomes law. The ancients called this the twilight of consciousness, but I call it the doorway of wealth. For it is here in this stillness that the subconscious, your divine treasury, opens its gates and listens without resistance. It is here that every seed of belief takes root and every command of feeling finds its flesh. And so I tell you, the one who learns to practice wealth in this nightly hour will never know lack again. You see, the world moves in cycles of waking and sleeping, giving and receiving, expansion and rest. And the same rhythm that governs the tides of the sea governs the tides of your creation. You have spoken by day, perhaps affirmed by will, perhaps struggled in thought. But it is in the night when effort ceases that your words become worlds. The night is the womb of manifestation, and whatever idea you fall asleep in must be born into your tomorrow. That is why I have said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and fall asleep in it. For the subconscious accepts what it is impressed with in that final moment before sleep and continues to nourish it in the silence of dreamless night. So tonight, and every night of this October, I want you to listen differently. Don't listen merely with your ears. Listen with your being as these words unfold. Feel them not as something being told to you, but as something rising within you. Let each sentence become your inner voice declaring truth. Let every phrase vibrate through your body like a remembered song. You are not a passive hearer. You are the conductor of this symphony, tuning yourself to the sound of wealth. As you listen, let go of the day's demands, the worries of the outer world, the noise of unfinished plans. You need not carry them into the silence, for the silence knows how to resolve them. Just breathe slowly and deeply and feel the air itself carrying richness into you, not as a wish, but as a fact. The breath that enters you is wealth entering form. The stillness that surrounds you is abundance, resting in readiness to serve. Now imagine a golden light surrounding you, soft and radiant, expanding gently with each breath. This light is not separate from you. It is your awareness clothed in color, the vibration of I am in motion. Feel it moving from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. Feel it fill the space around you as though the very room were being saturated with divine supply. Every breath you take deepens this glow until the air itself seems to hum with life. This is the wealth frequency. Not a sound you hear, but a tone you become. And as it fills you, silently declare, I am wealth. I am abundance in motion. I am supplied, sustained, and surrounded by infinite good. Don't strain to believe it. Simply let it be, as natural as breathing. This nightly practice is not repetition. It is remembrance. You are not trying to convince the mind of something foreign. You are recalling your own eternal nature. You have always been in wealth, but you forgot and began to chase the shadow instead of the source. The purpose of this meditation is to dissolve the shadow and restore remembrance. The words are merely guides. The feeling is the law. As you rest in this light, let gratitude rise within you like a tide. Thank the unseen for already fulfilling what you once longed for. Gratitude is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. It carries your assumption from the unseen to the seen. Feel that gratitude until your heart softens and your breath deepens, until you no longer seek proof, because you have become proof. Now I want you to see yourself in the state you most desire, not as a wishful dream, but as a vivid present fact. See yourself standing in your home, confident and calm, every bill paid, every need met, every desire fulfilled. Feel the peace of completion. Hear your own voice, not saying, I will, but I am. Let the words, I am wealth, roll through your inner being like a wave returning to the ocean. Then, the more you feel it, the more it becomes real, until even the thought of lack feels impossible. For in this moment, it is finished. Creation ends where assumption begins. And now, having felt the wish fulfilled, let go of effort completely. Don't try to hold the vision, allow it to fade into stillness. The subconscious does not need repetition, it needs rest. The seed does not grow by your digging it up each night to check its progress. It grows because you trusted the soil. So release the vision gently, knowing it has already taken root. Rest in the assurance that the law never fails. As you drift into sleep, feel the deep satisfaction of completion. Whisper inwardly, it is done. And with that, surrender to the silence. The silence is not emptiness. It is fullness awaiting expression. This is your nightly wealth ritual. The sacred act of creation made simple. It requires no ritual candle, no chanting, no outward form. The temple is your imagination. The altar is your heart. The offering is your feeling. The only requirement is sincerity. You need not force emotion. Even a quiet conviction is enough. The subconscious hears certainty more clearly than passion. So if your voice trembles, let it tremble in faith. If your vision wavers, let your gratitude steady it. You are not performing for the world. You are communing with the divine within you. And do not worry if you fall asleep before the meditation ends. In fact, that is ideal for the moment you drift into sleep, holding the feeling of wealth. That feeling slips past the guards of logic and plants itself deep within the creative mind. The subconscious continues where you left off, repeating the state throughout the night, weaving your assumptions into dreams and preparing the conditions that will greet you by morning. Every night you do this, the feeling grows stronger until it becomes effortless. The world which once resisted you will now conspire for you because you have harmonized your inner tone with its deepest law. By the final night of October, if you have listened faithfully, you will no longer be practicing wealth. You will be living it. You will wake not to wish for abundance, but to expect it. You will speak not of what you want, but of what already is. And when you see the first signs, the call, the letter, the opportunity, you will not be surprised. You will smile and say, of course, it has always been this way. So tonight, as you prepare for rest, remember, you are not falling asleep to escape the day. You are falling asleep to create the next one. Every dream begins with a feeling. Feel wealth and you will awaken to wealth. Feel freedom and freedom will greet you. Feel love and love will fill your world. The night is your workshop and imagination is your tool. Use it wisely with joy, with reverence, and with calm certainty. And now that you have entered the rhythm of creation, spoken, felt, and rested, you are ready for the dawn. For the dawn does not bring something new. Tea brings the visible form of what you have known in silence. As the October sun rises on your world, it will rise upon a new you, one who lives, breathes, and walks in the completed promise. Let us seal this practice now with the final word, the affirmation that ends all struggle and begins the unbroken flow of manifestation. And now, beloved, as the hour draws near its stillest point and the world outside your window quiets into the rhythm of its own rest, I want you to feel something ancient and eternal awakening within you. The awareness that this entire journey was never about attracting wealth, but about remembering who you are. You have listened and breathed and believed. And now you have come to the simple sacred realization that the power you sought was never hidden in the stars or buried in the soil. It was always within you, pulsing quietly beneath every heartbeat, waiting for your recognition. The search ends here in this silence, for you are the source from which all wish flow. And the moment you know this, everything in your world must align with that knowing. We began with the idea that money could find you. But now you see that money never had a will of its own. It was always drawn to the one who knew his identity as the giver of command. Wealth is not something that comes. It is something that unfolds, something that responds, something that remembers its master's tone. When you say, I am wealth, you are not asking for it to appear. You are declaring that it already exists here and now as your own expression of being. All that remains is to rest in this truth until it becomes effortless, until the mind no longer argues and the heart no longer doubts. You are not waiting for manifestation. Manifestation is waiting for you to stop looking elsewhere. So as you sit or lie here in the quiet, breathe deeply, slowly, like one who has nothing left to prove. Feel the rhythm of your breath matching the rhythm of life itself. Inhale and feel abundance enter. Exhale and feel it flow through you to all creation. You are not separate from this flow. You are the flow. You are the great ocean through which all rivers of supply move. And there is no end to your depth. The idea of lack, the fear of loss, the memory of struggle, these were shadows born of forgetting. And tonight in this moment you remember again. You remember that you and the source are one, that there is no gap between your desire and its fulfillment, no distance between word and form. All things are contained within the single awareness that says, I am. Close your eyes now and feel that truth expanding within you. The words are simple, but the vibration behind them moves worlds. I am wealth, I am abundance, I am peace. Say them not with effort, but with surrender. Like a whisper returning to its origin, feel the stillness that follows. For that stillness is not emptiness, it is the fullness of all that is already given. Rest there. Let every muscle soften, every thought quiet. Every lingering question dissolve. You need not know how or when. You need only know that it is done. Perhaps tomorrow or next week or the next breath. The world will begin to reveal to you the outer reflection of this inner certainty, opportunities, provision, favor, ideas. When they appear, greet them not with surprise, but with remembrance. Say quietly to yourself, of course, I knew it would come because it was already here. This is how the awakened one lives. Not chasing signs, but expecting them. Not begging for blessings, but recognizing them. Each morning will feel different now. Softer, steadier, filled with a quiet knowing that life is unfolding precisely as you have declared. You will find yourself giving more freely, speaking more confidently, resting more deeply, because the tension that once pushed and grasped has been replaced by the peace that simply allows. And so tonight, as this meditation closes, I leave you with one final decree. The same I have spoken in my OWN quiet hours. The same that has turned shadow into substance, struggle into song, lack into laughter. It is the eternal affirmation that seals every creation in the silence of faith. It is finished. Not it will be, not it might be, but it is. Let those words sink into you like roots sinking into fertile ground. Let them echo through the chambers of your being until even the smallest part of you stops reaching and starts resting. Say it softly now in rhythm with your breath. It is finished. And again, it is finished. Feel how those words erase every boundary between what is imagined and what is experienced. Feel how they dissolve all effort, all waiting, all separation. This is the Sabbath of creation, the sacred rest that follows knowing. When you wake in the morning, walk in this peace. Do not reach for affirmations like crutches. Walk as one already healed. Do not count money as though it were measure of your worth. Live as one whose wealth cannot be counted. Move through your world. D as the giver, the blesser, the one who carries light into every shadow. You are no longer a seeker. You are the found, and everything that belongs to the found flows to you with grace and ease. The world will call it miracle, but you will know it as memory, the memory of who you have always been. So now, let your mind sink into silence. Let the words fade and the feeling remain. Feel the vibration of wealth pulsing in your chest, steady and calm. Feel the gratitude rising. Not because something has happened, but because everything already has. You are the beginning and the end of every creation, the Alpha and the Omega of your own experience. Rest in that truth tonight. Rest knowing that you are the law, the love, the abundance itself. And as you rest, the unseen begins its work, rearranging the pieces of your world to reflect your new vibration. Sleep now, child of the infinite. Sleep as one who has completed his creation. Sleep as the wealthy, the free, the fulfilled. For when the morning comes, you will not awaken to seek, but to recognize. You will not pray for supply, but to give thanks for its endless flow. You will not wonder if it works. You will know because you will see. And that seeing will not be the beginning. It will be the confirmation of what has been true since the beginning of all beginnings. You are that which you have desired, and you have always been. Let this be your final thought before you drift into the sacred silence. I am wealth. I am peace. I am the eternal source unfolding. Let it echo gently as you close your eyes. Listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to say will not just enter your ears. It will shake your spirit awake. God is about to shock you with favor. You may not see it coming. You may not even feel prepared for it. But heaven has already issued the command. The doors that were shut are about to swing wide open. The people who ignored you will soon have to watch and lift you up in front of them. You have no idea how close you are to a divine surprise. God is preparing something so great, so unexpected, that it will leave even your enemies speechless. You see, sometimes when God is about to do something extraordinary, He first allows life to look ordinary. You go through silent seasons, dry valleys, lonely nights, and unanswered prayers. You wonder, has God forgotten me? But what you don't realize is that this is the silence before the explosion of favor. God hides His biggest miracles behind ordinary moments. When it seems like nothing is happening, that's when He's setting the stage. When it feels like you've been overlooked, that's when He's preparing your name to be announced. Don't be fooled by the stillness in your life. It's not the end. It's preparation. The favor of God is not loud before it appears. It builds quietly until it bursts forth. And when it bursts, it doesn't come like a gentle breeze. It comes like a mighty wind. When God decides it is your time, nothing and no one can delay it. No circumstance, no human being, no system can stop what God has ordained for you. Some of you have been walking through seasons where nothing seems to make sense. You've been faithful, you've been praying, you've been sowing seeds of goodness, and yet you still find yourself waiting. You've watched others rise while you remain in the shadows. But hear me well. Just because you are hidden does not mean you are forgotten. God hides His most valuable treasures until the right time. He conceals His chosen ones until the stage is ready. When it's time, God doesn't need to consult anyone to bless you. When it's time, He doesn't need permission. He just acts. And when He acts, it is sudden, unstoppable, and shocking. That is what I mean when I say God is about to shock you with favor. You are about to step into blessings you didn't even pray for. Doors will open that you didn't knock on. Opportunities will chase you down instead of you chasing them. God is about to make you a living testimony of His goodness. People will look at you and say, "How did this happen?" And your only answer will be, "It was God." You see, divine favor is not earned. It's granted. It's not the result of your perfection. It's the result of God's affection. You may have made mistakes, you may have stumbled, you may have doubted, but that doesn't disqualify you. God's favor does not flow from your worthiness. It flows from His mercy. When God decides to favor you, your past cannot stop it. Your weakness cannot block it, and your enemies cannot prevent it. His hand overrides everything. There are moments in life when you feel like you're walking through fire. But what you don't see is that the fire is refining you for favor. The waiting is not punishment, it's preparation. The silence is not absence, it's strategy. God is working behind the curtains, writing your breakthrough into existence. Every delay you faced was not a denial, it was divine timing aligning. God's calendar is different from yours, and when the clock of heaven strikes your moment, no force on earth can hold it back. Some of you have cried in secret. You've been faithful while no one saw your faithfulness. You've been good to people who never thanked you. You've sown seeds into dry ground, hoping something would one day grow. And I'm here to tell you it will. God has seen every hidden act of faith. He has recorded every tear. He has watched you stay humble when you could have complained. And now He's about to reward you publicly. The season of private tears is about to turn into public testimony. God doesn't forget the faithful. He doesn't overlook those who trust Him. Even when they don't understand Him, you have been tested not to break you, but to position you. You have been kept in obscurity not to punish you, but to protect you. God knows that some blessings are too heavy to carry until your character is strong enough to hold them. That's why the waiting took so long. It wasn't delay, it was strengthening. And now that strength will meet its reward. The same people who walk past you without noticing you are about to witness what God has done in your life. Those who thought you were finished will be the first to see your rise. When God decides to favor someone, He doesn't whisper it, He displays it. He makes it undeniable. And that is what's about to happen for you. When favor comes, it breaks every limit. It rewrites stories. It reverses decisions. Favor turns rejection into selection, mockery into honor, and lack into abundance. You may not have the qualificatio, NS, but favor will qualify you. You may not have the support, but favor will draw the right people to you. You may not have the strength, but favor will carry you where effort could not. That's why you must stop trying to make things happen in your own power. When God is your source, human approval is no longer your requirement. There are blessings that only God can deliver. There are shifts that only God can cause. And there are moments when heaven decides it's your turn. That moment is near. The reason you've been feeling that deep stirring inside, that restlessness, that sense that something is about to change, it's because your spirit already knows what heaven has decided. You are on the edge of divine intervention. Don't lose faith now. Don't let the waiting room make you forget the promise. The breakthrough that God is preparing for you will not just bless you, it will redeem every year that seemed wasted. It will restore everything that was stolen. God never ends a story in defeat. He always concludes with victory. You may not see the full picture now, but soon you'll look back and say, "No, I understand why I had to go through that." Every setback was setting you up. Every delay was divine redirection. Every disappointment was a hidden protection. God knows exactly what He's doing. You don't need to chase what's yours. You only need to stay faithful to God. When you do, favor will find you. God's timing may not match your calendar, but it's always perfect. When He acts, He does more in one day than human effort could do in 10 years. You're about to witness that kind of miracle. You're about to experience blessings that won't make logical sense. The favor that's coming will be so overwhelming that even you will struggle to explain it. People will ask you how you got that position, how your situation changed, how the doors opened, and your only answer will be, "God did it." That's how God works. He loves to take impossible situations and turn them into undeniable testimonies. He loves to take ordinary people and crown them with extraordinary favor. You don't need to worry about how it will happen. Just believe that it will. Faith opens the atmosphere for favor. Faith is the signal that tells heaven you're ready. When you believe in the unseen hand of God, you invite the impossible to become possible. Even now, while you're listening, something is shifting. God is rearranging things in your favor. He's speaking your name in rooms you haven't entered yet. He's aligning opportunities that will surprise you. There are people being prepared right now to bless you, to support you, to recognize your value. You're not forgotten. You're being positioned. God has already written your name into your next season of favor. You may think you're running out of time, but you're not. You may think it's too late, but it's not. God is never early and never late. He's always on time, His time. And when His time comes, everything that was held back suddenly flows. It's like a dam breaking open. Blessings rush towards you faster than you can contain them. That's why you must prepare your heart. You must be ready to receive. You must enlarge your faith because the magnitude of what's coming will require deep trust. Favor is not just about what you get. It's about who you become through the process. God is about to shock you with favor, but He also wants you to remain grounded in faith when it arrives. The blessing is not meant to distract you from God. It's meant to draw you closer because favor without faith can turn into pride, but favor with faith becomes a platform for glory. God wants your success to be a testimony, not a temptation. He wants to bless you so greatly that others are drawn to Him through what He's done in you. Don't limit God. Don't box Him into what seems realistic. The same God who created the universe doesn't need logic to bless you. He can promote you without credentials, heal you without medicine, open doors that don't exist yet. He can take you from the back to the front in one moment of divine favor. One touch from God can do what a lifetime of striving cannot. That's the power of His hand. You may say, "But I've been waiting for so long." I know, but sometimes God allows the waiting to build a greater testimony. If everything came easily, you would never know His power. If every door opened quickly, you wouldn't know His faithfulness. It's the closed doors that make the open doors shine brighter. It's the valley that makes the mountain meaningful. And when you rise, you'll rise with gratitude, not pride. You'll know it was God, not luck, not chance, not coincidence. And hear me, when God favors you, He also defends you. He silences those who spoke against you. He exposes false friends and removes them before the blessing arrives. Sometimes you lose people before favor comes because God knows they cannot handle your next level. Don't mourn what walked away. Thank God it left. If they could, top you, God wouldn't have allowed them to leave. Your circle may shrink, but your destiny will expand. God is not preparing you for something small. He's preparing you for something historic. Your story will inspire others. Your rise will heal someone's hope. Your victory will be the proof that trusting God is never in vain. You are not just being blessed for yourself. You are being positioned as a light to others. God will use your life to demonstrate that no one who relies on Him is ever disappointed. Right now, heaven is moving. Even if you can't see it, even if it feels quiet, God is arranging a divine setup. The next season of your life will not look like your past. You have cried enough. You have waited enough. You have carried burdens long enough. God is saying now is your time. Favor is about to locate you. The things you lost will be restored in greater measure. The things you prayed for will exceed your imagination. Get ready. You won't have to beg for what's coming. Won't have to chase it. It will come to you. The same way the morning sun doesn't need to be invited to rise. Favor doesn't need to be forced. It simply appears when the time is right. And the time is now approaching. There will be signs. Doors that once resisted you will open effortlessly. People who never noticed you will suddenly recognize you. Ideas will come to your mind that bring success. Peace will fill your heart where there was once fear. God will confirm His favor with clarity. You won't have to question if it's Him. You'll know when God is about to release favor. He first tests your heart, not to see if you are worthy, but to see if you are ready. Many people pray for blessings, but few are prepared for responsibility that comes with them. Favor is not light, it is weight. It requires maturity, patience, and humility to carry. When God delays a blessing, it's not because He's ignoring you, it's because He's shaping you. He's teaching you to depend on Him so that when the blessing comes, you won't mistake it as your own achievement. God never gives you something that will destroy you. He builds the foundation before He builds the tower. So if you've been waiting longer than you expected, understand this. It's not wasted time. It's sacred time. God has been strengthening your inner being. He's been pruning you, stretching you, purifying you from things that cannot enter your next season. You think you've been standing still, but in truth, you've been growing roots. You've been deepening your faith. And now, when the favor of God falls, it won't just lift you. It will sustain you. The reason God sometimes hides His plan is because if you saw everything, you might not be able to handle it. The process feels confusing, but it's divine protection. God hides you, not because He's withholding good things, but because He's ensuring your rise happens in the right atmosphere. You can't plant a seed in frozen ground and expect it to grow. So God waits for the season to change. And when the soil of your life is ready, He commands favor to bloom. There will be moments when God seems silent, but silence does not mean absence. Silence is the language of preparation. God often whispers in stillness what He later announces in glory. When you feel forgotten, when the heavens seem quiet, remind yourself this is the space where miracles are born. In that stillness, something powerful is forming. God never leaves you where He found you. Every valley leads to a higher place if you keep walking. And listen, when the favor of God arrives, it will not just elevate your circumstances, it will shift your atmosphere. Suddenly, resistance turns into recognition. Closed doors become open invitations. Where there was lack, there will be overflow. Where there was struggle, there will be ease. You will not have to fight for visibility. God Himself will highlight you. You won't have to prove your worth. He will make your worth undeniable. But before favor comes, God always requires surrender. You must let go of control. You must release the anxiety that tries to predict every outcome. You must trust that God's plan is better than your understanding. Faith is not about seeing, it's about believing even when nothing seems visible. The person who truly trusts in God learns to rest even in uncertainty. Because when you are aligned with God's will, you know that every outcome is victory. Whether it looks like it or not, God's favor will not always look like a gift at first. Sometimes it comes disguised as loss. Sometimes the path to blessing feels like brokenness. But what feels like an ending is often the beginning of a greater plan. God never removes something unless He's making space for something better. When He closes one door, it's because the next one leads to a higher floor. Stop mourning over what God already replaced. What you lost was temporary, but what's coming is eternal. You must remember that favor is not about having everything. It's having God in everything. When He is with you, even a little becomes enough. With His favor, one idea can transform your entire life. One encounter can change your future. One act of obedience can unlock blessings you've never imagined. You don't need everyone to like you or support you. You only need God to back you. When He decides to favor you, no opposition can stand. And don't be surprised if you face opposition right before your breakthrough. That's often the clearest sign that favor is near. The closer you get to divine elevation, the more resistance appears. Darkness always fights what it knows it cannot stop. The storm rages hardest before the dawn of blessing. Music. So when life seems to push against you with pressure, lift your head high. God is confirming that something great is about to unfold. Favor is not only about receiving, it's also about becoming. When God blesses you, it's so that you may bless others. The favor that is coming into your life will not end with music. It will flow through you. You will become an instrument of generosity, a vessel of kindness, a carrier of divine wisdom. People will find peace in your presence because God's light will rest on you. That's why you must stay humble even when you rise. The higher God takes you, the lower your heart must bow before Him. Many of you have been misunderstood in your season of preparation. You've been criticized for walking in faith, mocked for believing when there was no evidence. But remember this, favor makes sense only to those who see through the eyes of faith. God often blesses the same people the world once rejected. He loves to take what others call impossible and make it undeniable. So don't be surprised if the ones who laughed at you must later congratulate you. God's favor will speak louder than your words ever could. You see, God is not only the giver of favor, He is the sustainer of it. The same hand that lifts you is the hand that will keep you there. So when NGs begin to pour in, keep your eyes fixed on the source, not the success. Don't let prosperity make you forget who opened the door. When God favors you, stay anchored in gratitude. Gratitude protects the blessing. Pride destroys it. When your heart remains thankful, you create room for even more divine favor to flow. And hear this truth. What God is about to do in your life will not follow human order. It will not fit logic. People will say, "You didn't deserve that." And you will quietly smile because you'll know it was never about deserving. It was about divine decision. God favors whom He chooses. And when He chooses you, no system can block you. Some of you have been waiting for years, years of effort, prayer, patience, and endurance. And now you are on the threshold of fulfillment. Don't let fatigue rob you of expectation. God didn't bring you this far to leave you here. The same power that sustained you through your trials will carry you into triumph. You are not entering just another season. You are entering a divine turning point. You will look back and see that every hardship was necessary for this moment. When God favors you, He doesn't just change your surroundings. He changes your reputation. People will no longer associate you with struggle, but with grace. Your story will transform from how will they survive to look what God has done. Favor rewrites narratives. It changes the labels others placed on you. It lifts you from overlooked to overflowing, from rejected to respected, from ordinary to divinely appointed. There's a reason God allowed you to walk through the valley before the mountain. He wanted to build compassion in your heart, because when favor comes, you won't use it to boast. You'll use it to bless. You'll remember how it felt to have nothing, and that will make you a channel of mercy. The greatest favor is not the one that elevates you above others. It's the one that allows you to lift others up with you. Favor will also bring exposure. P.O. P will start noticing you, speaking about you, watching you. Don't fear it. It's part of the plan. When God shines His light on you, it's not to glorify you, it's to glorify His power through your life. You must walk boldly but humbly. Let your actions speak louder than your achievements. Music, let your character reflect the God who raised you. And know this, favor doesn't exempt you from challenges. It empowers you to overcome them. Even with favor, you will still face storms. But now those storms won't drown you, they'll elevate you. Favor turns tests into testimonies. It gives you the strength to stand in peace while others panic. When you are favored, what destroys others only develops you. There comes a moment when the invisible hand of God begins to move so mightily in your life that even the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The things that once seemed out of reach suddenly fall into place. The doors that refused to open suddenly swing wide. The favor that once seemed distant begins to overflow in ways you never imagined. And when it happens, you will realize that it was not by your effort. It was by divine orchestration. God had been weaving everything together, quietly aligning events, preparing hearts, and setting the right people in motion. He was working behind the scenes, unseen but unstoppable, shaping the path that leads to your breakthrough. But hear me. Well, before favor manifests in public, it must first be formed in private. God always works from the inside out. He molds your heart before He moves your circumstances. He trains your spirit to trust Him before He releases the blessing. This is why the waiting season is sacred. It's where faith is forged, where dependence is deepened, where pride dies and peace is born. When you learn to be content with God in hidden places, He can trust you in visible ones. Because favor without foundation will always collapse. There's a reason God allows you to be misunderstood. There is a reason He allows people to underestimate you. It's because He's protecting your destiny from premature exposure. The light of favor is powerful. It attracts blessings, but it also attracts battles. God hides you until your spirit is mature enough to handle both. Music, when the time comes, He will reveal you not as a victim of struggle, but as a vessel of His glory. So don't curse the process that built you. The valley you walked through gave you depth. The silence you endured gave you discernment. The pain you faced refined your perspective. You are not coming out of this season the same. You are coming out wiser, stronger, and more aligned with divine purpose. And when favor finally arrives, you will carry it with humility, knowing that it was all God from beginning to end. You see, favor doesn't mean you'll never face hardship. It means hardship will never have the final say. Even in the face of adversity, the favor of God gives you victory. It causes you to rise above what was meant to bury you. It empowers you to keep standing when others would have fallen. When you walk in divine favor, every setback becomes a setup for something greater. The storm may come, but the storm cannot stop what God has ordained. And understand this truth. God's favor is not limited by your environment. You don't need to be in the perfect place for it to reach you. You could be in a dry desert and God will cause rivers to flow. You could be in the midst of rejection and God will make someone notice your value. You could be in a situation that seems impossible and yet favor will open a way where there was none. God does not need favorable conditions to show favor. He creates them. Sometimes God will even move people out of your path to make room for His plan. He will close doors that you thought were meant for you, not to hurt you, but to protect from settling for less than is best. And later, when the right door opens, you will understand why the others had to remain shut. Divine rejection is often divine redirection. No, that broke your heart was preparing you for a yes, that will heal it. But to walk in the fullness of God's favor, you must guard your heart against doubt. Doubt is the thief of destiny. It whispers that you are forgotten, that nothing will change, that your prayers have gone unheard. Yet, in truth, every prayer you have spoken has been stored in heaven. God keeps record of every cry, every whisper, every silent plea. He is not deaf to your desperation. He's simply aligning everything for the perfect moment. Faith must become your daily language. Music, speak as if the blessing is already yours. Think as if the promise is already fulfilled. Move as if God's favor surrounds you like a shield. Because when your words, thoughts, and actions align with faith, you create an atmosphere where miracles can manifest. Faith is the bridge between where you are and where God is taking you. Every word of trust becomes a stepping stone toward your breakthrough. And hear this, favor of God is not just about material abundance, it's about divine alignment. It's about peace that cannot be shaken, wisdom that cannot be stolen, strength that cannot be broken. It's about walking in such harmony with God that even when life doesn't go your way, you still feel secure because you know the one leading you never fails. True favor is not measured by what you hold in your hands, but by the peace that rests in your soul. There will come a time when you will look back and realize that everything that once frustrated you was actually guiding you. The delays, the denials, the detours, they were not mistakes. They were divine movements. God allowed them to redirect your steps to the place where His favor could find you. Sometimes you have to lose what you thought you needed to make room for what God has destined. And when the favor of God finally arrives, it doesn't come quietly. It comes with evidence. People will notice the difference in your life. They will see a Jesus, a peace, a power that cannot be explained by human reasoning. Doors will open without effort. Help will come without asking. You will begin to attract what once eluded you. It won't be because of manipulation or striving. It will be because the presence of God will go before you. When God's favor is on you, what was once difficult becomes easy. But never forget, the same favor that blesses also tests. It will reveal the truth of your heart. Will you remember the days when you prayed for what you now have? Will you remain humble? Will you use your blessings to lift others? Because the purpose of divine favor is not to inflate your ego, but to expand your impact. God blesses you so you can become a conduit of His goodness in the lives of others. So when your season shifts and abundance begins to flow, don't just ask, what can I get? Ask, what can I give? Don't just seek comfort, seek purpose. The true measure of favor is not how much you receive, but how much you reflect God through you. Our actions. The favored person doesn't just live well, they live meaningfully. And be ready when God elevates you. Not everyone will celebrate you. Some will question it, some will envy it, and some will distance themselves from you. But let them go. Favor exposes hearts. It separates those who only loved you for your weakness from those who will honor you in your strength. Don't waste time explaining yourself to those who cannot see what God is doing. The same God who raised you will also vindicate you. Sometimes the shock of favor is not just in what God gives you, but in who He removes from your life. Because divine elevation requires divine separation. You cannot step into new levels with old mindsets. God will prune relationships, habits, and environments that hinder your growth. And though it may hurt, it's necessary. The pain of pruning is temporary, but the fruit it produces is eternal. And when you finally walk into your season of favor, carry yourself with quiet confidence. You won't need to announce it. You won't need to prove anything. The evidence will speak. Your peace will speak. Your results will speak. The transformation in your life will become your testimony. God's favor has a sound. It echoes through everything you do. It announces His power without words. So walk boldly, expect boldly, pray boldly, because the same God who formed the stars, who commands the seasons, who raises kingdoms and humbles them, has His eyes set on you. He is not done with you. In fact, He's only beginning. The greatest chapters of your life are still unwritten, and God Himself holds the pen. You thought you were near the end, but you're actually standing at the threshold of something divine. Do not let your current condition blind you to your coming favor. God can shift your life in a single moment. What took years to build can transform overnight when His hand moves. You have been faithful in obscurity, and now He is preparing to reward you in visibility. The seeds you planted in tears are about to produce a harvest of joy. Favor is about to overtake you, not gradually, but suddenly. And when it comes, you will not have to question it. You will know it was God, because it will come with peace. It will come with purpose, and it will come with power. The same power that carried you through the waiting will now carry you into the winning. God has been watching every step, and now He's about to lift you to a place that no human hand could have taken you. So stand still in faith. Don't rush the process. Don't panic in uncertainty. Just trust. Because when it happens, when God releases the wave of divine favor that's been building behind the scenes, you will not be able to contain the joy, the gratitude, and the wonder of it all. Your story will shift. Your name will be known not for struggle, but for grace. And the world will see that when God decides to favor someone, nothing, no power, no obstacle, no delay can stand against it.